Hey guys, George from SME here, and today I wanted to do a little bit of a different type of video that I really didn't even think of until it actually happened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain some concepts related to data using a real life example. So this all kind of boils down to when I was at home working with my own personal data across my devices, and when I was going through some data management, backups, and cleanups, I realized that what I was doing is essentially a mirror of what we do in the real world with databases, data lakes, data warehouses, and data marts. So I'm just going to go through and kind of explain what my problem was, how I solved it, and how we can relate this to what those concepts are in the real world. All right, so let's get started. So when I was in college, I had a 1 terabyte external hard drive that I used just to back up all my files, because not every device is going to last forever. So I had all these different devices. I had my laptop, my tablet, eventually I got a Chromebook, and of course your smartphones. All of these can be considered a separate data source in what we're going to use in today's example. The laptop can be considered a database, because at its core, a database stores data in a relational, a logical format. So my folder structures in my computer would be similar to how databases and tables are in my databases. Now, we all know that databases aren't the only source out there, so you can use web sources like with APIs. So just a fun one, the one that I really like to do is every now and then I'll use the web API for Spotify to pull my library information in case I ever move away from Spotify, or just to remember some of those smaller bands. So now that I had all this data, what I was doing was I was moving it every now and then, probably every 6 months, off of my devices and onto this external hard drive. The reason being was I wanted to make sure I had a backup of my data in case I needed to move laptops, change phones, all of that. But what I realized is that this is actually a good example of a data lake. Essentially, you're taking data from all your sources and you're pushing the files there just to kind of really consolidate everything. But I had a problem. So I was actually running out of space on my terabyte hard drive just because of all this music that I have. But also, I didn't really have a good strategy back in the day of backing up my files. What I was doing was I was just time-stamping a folder saying it was a backup and then migrating it to my hard drive. Essentially what happened 5 years later, I think actually more than that, is I've created we're on the way to a data swamp where the files are all over the place, they're not organized, and for me, if I needed to find a picture of something from, let's say, St. Louis 7 years ago, I'm going to have to be digging through and wasting time. So what was my solution? Well, one, I needed to get a new external hard drive, which was also a good way to back up my backup. So I got a 2 terabyte one. And what I did was I created a strong folder structure, saying documents, music. Inside music, is it a mix? Is it a song? Is it an album? Then you also have like your pictures. Where was it taken? What year was it in? So then I went through the laborious process of moving all of those files from the original hard drive onto the new one. This new hard drive essentially is a data warehouse. Data warehouses are supposed to be a central hub of all of your information that's organized logically so that you're able to essentially report off of data, use your applications, connect to all of that. So in a sense, what I've done is I've taken my data, I've backed it up to one central source, and now I've cleaned it up. To take it one step further, what I can do is if I need to access that data, I can create these little data marts where it's just maybe a few tables here and there that I can pull from my hard drive. And just to give an example, for my personal use, I have a flash drive that I plug into my car so I can take gigabytes worth of music mixes or albums with me on the road without having to plug in my phone. In a real life example, obviously, if you needed to build a report or application, you could just take a few tables out of the data warehouse as like a data mart, shopping for it in a sense, and then take it to the application and you're off to the races. So those are the 4 concepts really. And I just wanted to kind of clarify, because I know that this kind of gets thrown around pretty frequently, but some people are kind of confused when it comes to what is like the software behind it. Like can a database be a data lake or a data warehouse? So just to put some clarity on that, so traditionally databases, yes, that software is labeled as a database, you know what it is. But data lakes and data warehouses can be databases that you just use for those reasons. Those terms are more concepts than hard things. Now, there are companies that like to market it, such as Snowflake and Amazon Redshift or Google BigQuery or Azure Synapse, that say that these are data warehouses, but you're really still running SQL off of it. They just give it in a format that's like a data warehouse. And a data lake can serve a similar purpose. I know that for me personally at work, we're using Amazon S3 just to push files there, and those files stay there. So that's more of a traditional data lake, but they can be interchangeable and whatnot. But that's really more, like I said, a concept as opposed to an actual product. So that's my thoughts, guys. I just thought that was a cool example about how I'm using my own personal data to make data-driven decisions, and I have a new strategy, essentially, of how to organize my data in my life. Because at the end of the day, you need to make sure that your personal data and your business data is preserved, it's organized, it's cataloged, so that you're able to access it, access your videos, your music, and for personal, your memories. You want to make sure that you're able to have all of that. So if you guys want to learn more about data strategy, feel free to reach out to us in the comments or at info@smesgroup.com. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a good one.